Hey everybody, Adam Martin, CEO of FI Project. Got my first letter from our guy that's serving life without parole in prison. Um, Recently, we started a series where we're letting guys that are serving life, or guys and gals that are serving life, have the ability to teach lessons of things they've learned along the way, whether it's in recovery or employment and stuff in the past, skill sets, or curriculum that they've been through while they are in prison, and help teach those things to people that are in our houses. So the first letter that I got was from a gentleman who wants to use his experience of once being a drug dealer, getting life in prison, now being in recovery, and relay his lived experience to the people to the people in the houses. So I'm going to read the letter, and then the topics that he has for discussion at the end, and then you can just, if you want to do the topics, you can just leave your answers in the comments. And so appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time. It'll take a few minutes to read through this, so bear with me. The title is You Are Worthy. Elsewhere, there be monsters. Centuries ago, a German mapmaker set out to create a map of the world. Having no personal knowledge of anything else beyond the bounds of his world at that time, he placed the continent of Europe at the map's center and wrote those words upon it. Elsewhere, there be monsters. These words remind me of how we, as a people, tend to believe the worst about things we know about ourselves. These words remind me of how harshly people can judge others, and, worse still, how harshly we can judge ourselves when our knowledge is limited to the outer bounds of our potential, remains untested, and or not yet known to us or others. There is an inherent danger in accepting those narratives that are placed upon us by others and or our inner critic. When we, by which I mean all of us in some form of recovery, accept narratives, the map of the world and thinking get altered in a way that is detrimental to the recovery process itself. For me, it was accepting those narratives so fully that I believed the path to redemption and recovery were no longer open to me. It was said a mountain of broken relationships, crime, addiction, and other failures stood at the center of my map. The center of map of my known world. It did not matter that many of the things said about me were actually true. The problem was believing that I only was those worst things that I had ever done, thereby allowing the outer bounds of my map to remain unwritten and left to speculation. How do any of us find the path to redemption and recovery if our maps are broken and distorted? If we lack faith in our own potential for redemption and recovery, and believe ourselves to be the worst things we had ever done, then why even try to be something or someone different? Today's message to you is that you are worthy. I am here to remind you you are not only the worst things you have ever done. I write to tell you that you are unquestionably worthy of redemption, that recovery is possible, and that everyone can change the narratives placed on their maps. I am writing you today after more than 22 years of confinement. Following my arrest for drug and gun crimes, I was sentenced to serve the rest of my life several times over. Hopelessness and despair set almost immediately, but that is not the focus of today's message. What I write about today is their ugly companion I call the narrative takeover. Misery does love company, and so with my arrest, conviction, and sentencing, there emerged a narrative so definitive that, well, I started to believe all of it myself. Without question, it happens like that. Like falling asleep, they say. First little by little, then all at once. My drug addiction and criminality started out that way too, so perhaps it was fitting a narrative would likewise form around the story of my life. So it did. Courts issued opinions, News people wrote and told stories. People told their versions of things, and then I began repeating those narratives to myself. It did not matter, as I said, that they more often than not got it right. The real harm in narrative takeover occurs when you take something said about you and make it into something you believe about yourself in a way that fixes the limits of your potential and worth. You are worthy. The three hardest words for me to believe about myself. The three words that would weigh me down and then build walls between me and my path to redemption and recovery. The three words that stood in polar opposition to the narrative that deemed me a monster. To be sure, no one outside myself used the vile word to describe me, at least not that I recall. I was a word of my own making and choosing, the one I placed upon my map and to describe both the known and the unknown areas of my potential. It was the name I believe that made it pointless for me to seek either redemption or recovery. I was serving life without parole and had nothing else to lose. I was all in, as they say. So why waste time and effort pursuing something not available to me and or that would change nothing for me even if it was? I had been rejected by mostly everyone, society, friends, loved ones, until I finally rejected myself. It is strange, then, that I am here speaking to you all through this letter. I would like to be able to say that there was a switch thrown somewhere at some indiscernible time in my life, and that my travels along the path of redemption and recovery happened in a straight line, one that inevitably led directly to my sense of self-worth. My story does not unfold that way, and I expect yours does not either. If only that was the case. So why me? Why am I sending you this message of hope, redemption, and recovery while expounding upon my worth and potential? I am here because you are my family, my people. Everyone in recovery is. Everyone who has sat where I am sitting now and who has sat in places like the place you are sitting now has the experience similar in kind, if only different by degree. The other reason it is me speaking to you today is because I reached out to find a way to be of service to others, to make amends for my past harms, and to be someone who lifts people up instead of tearing them down. In other words, I am here on my path to redemption and recovery, hoping to become part of yours. How I ended up here today is a result of gradual effort to become a better version of myself, one that not only made up of my past failures. As I said, there was no switch thrown. That marked the realization of my worth and potential. I stumbled onto the path of recovery and redemption more than I stumbled onto the path of recovery and redemption more than I used any map to locate or traverse it. Again, my map was clearly broken and distorted. Elsewhere, there be monsters, and I believe myself to be one. I sold drugs and exploited people and their addictions for my own selfish ends. I neglected relationships, ones that remain broken to this day. I failed to be a father to my daughter and have chosen criminality and addiction over seeking a relationship with her. That relationship remains broken today. The list of past failures does not stop there. I don't know how to fix all the things that I've done, and I know simply saying sorry will never be enough for any of us. So what do? I saw a sign on the wall one day. I read it and then slowly smirked. Such a simple thing, yet it followed me for days. What did the sign say? It said, "First rule of holes. If you find yourself in one, stop digging." I smiled when I think of that sign. I routinely share it with others when the time is right, and I share it with you now. So the first step in my recovery, my first step in direction of redemption, was to stop digging. There is power in that one small action. If I stop digging, stop breaking relationships, and being my same old self, I stop hurting myself and others. Just as importantly, that first step was essential in defying the narrative that was distorting the way I looked at my worth and potential. If I stopped digging, I would stop confirming all those narratives that never spoke of my potential to be someone or something better or different. The pause and destruction I had been causing gave me moments of clarity I needed to see who I had the potential to become. It helped me understand I had the power to change the words on my map used to describe what existed for me beyond the failures of my past. It was there when the fog of the narrative takeover was lifted that I seen my true worth wrapped up in my potential. From there, it was just but one more step to start filling those holes of my past creation. Today is a new day for me. I have been a mentor to others struggling with addiction or suffering from mental health issues. I have taught and continue to teach reentry and recovery maintenance to others based on a curriculum that I myself designed and pushed to implement for the benefit of others, even as I have no outdate myself. I have served and continue to serve as the inmate suicide companion. I am working on obtaining my drug and alcohol treatment specialist diploma. I build relationships now instead of breaking them. I hope where I once despaired. I create instead of destroy. I stop digging. I know now in my heart that I am not only the worst things I had ever done, and neither are you. In closing, I challenge you to stop accepting the narratives that steal you from your sense of potential and self-worth. If you find yourself in a hole, I challenge you to stop digging and give yourself a chance to see the worth and the potential once the fog of the narrative takeover is lifted. When you see your true worth and potential, I ask you to redraw your map and write these words upon them. You are worthy. You most certainly are. Much love, fam. Take care, and God bless. The discussion topics that he has at the end is number 1. In what ways have things said about you kept you from believing in yourself and your potential for recovery and redemption? Number 2, are there things you have not forgiven yourself for that return to your measuring your worth and potential? Number 3, in what ways do you find yourself in a hole today, and what would it take for you to stop digging? 4, what is one thing you can stop doing today that is harming yourself or others? And number 5, what are new healthy goals you can set for yourself and begin working on today that will defy the narratives built around your failures of your past? Thank you, everybody.